so I don't need to be wired. Great. Good afternoon. Today I wish to weigh in on the bombshell issue that has been pronounced by the Chief Justice in relation to the possible dissolution of Parliament. This is a very weighty matter, and I think it calls on all Kenyans of goodwill to reflect on it so that we do not throw our country into a state of chaos or despondency. Fellow Kenyans, few countries, indeed any country, would want to find itself in the constitutional quagmire that we find ourselves in today. The Chief Justice has invoked powers bestowed on him under Article 261 of the Constitution and advised the President to dissolve Parliament for failure to actualize Article 27(6) and 8 of the Constitution. The article requires the state to make legislative and other measures to implement the principle that no more than 2/3 of the members of elective or appointive bodies shall be of the same gender. In finally invoking Article 261, the Chief Justice went to great length to provide an account of opportunities availed by the judiciary to the executive and Parliament, which the latter two did not make use of. In his lengthy submission justifying his ultimate action, the Chief Justice suggests that at the heart of this crisis is institutional paralysis instigated by wasteful competition and contempt for consultation and cooperation amongst arms of government. Indeed, the Supreme Court in 2012 advised that the fulfillment of the 2/3 gender rule would be progressive and dependent on the state's further action. The petitioners are therefore justified that no substantive action has been taken to give life to the requirements of Article 27, 6 and 8 of the Constitution. The truth is Parliament is in default, having failed to enact the enabling legislation in this regard and with the time prescribed having elapsed. Justified as he may be legally, the Chief Justice's drastic action was extreme and portends disaster for a country ravaged by and struggling to contain the coronavirus, whose economy is in tatters and without viable institutions to manage the aftermath of his action. I wish to repeat that. Justified as he may be legally, the Chief Justice's drastic action was extreme and portends disaster for a country that is ravaged and is also struggling from the effects of the coronavirus. Our economy is in tatters and without viable institutions to manage the aftermath of his action. Dissolution of Parliament is not an end in itself. Without mitigation, Kenya will be in free fall with the very survival of the state in utter jeopardy. Kenyans, we should remember we are in uncharted constitutional territory. I am advised that since Article 261 falls under transitional and consequential clauses, the spirit of the law, rather than the letter, should have been liberally applied to guard against social disorder. In any case, no constitutional mechanism exists on how and what happens after Parliament is dissolved under such circumstances. The term of Parliament is fixed, and when dissolved, it means the next Parliament shall overlap its term with that of the Presidency and county governments. Indeed, there is no guarantee that the next Parliament will not carry the sins of its predecessor and suffer the same fate. There is no guarantee that an election will cure the mischief. Further, dissolution will mean there is no institution to authorize spending in an election or put in place a body to supervise the election. And we Kenyans are on the status of the IEBC is alive to Kenyans. Even then, can an economically tattered or stressed country afford an election in the next 60 days? We are facing a terrible, chaotic void. Kenyans know very well that we are stressed. Revenue targets cannot be met. Even in the current budget, the Minister for Finance or Treasury has not made any provision, let alone for an election, but even for a referendum, because there is no money. So this is indeed a grave matter for the country. So the question is this: is there an escape window? My take is this: informed opinion is that the spirit of the law must at all times guide interpretation of the Constitution. And since the Constitution under Article 101 does not envisage ending in the circumstances Article 261, subsection 7, the Supreme Court should of its own volition revisit Article 159 that sets the rules of interpreting the Constitution to abide by the principle that it shall be interpreted in a manner that promotes its purposes, values, and principles, and contributes to good governance. Two, we must coalesce as a country and find a less disruptive solution. I repeat that. We must coalesce as a country and find a less disruptive solution. Since Article 2617 is a guillotine provision, without recourse, the President should acknowledge the merit of the CJ's advice and seek broader consultation to find a workable solution. With no immediate timeline for the President to dissolve Parliament, it should accord him time, prudence, and in the interest of public good to allow for serious institutional consultations to avoid crushing the country. Finally, Parliament carries the greater responsibility to save the country. It is capable and should take advantage of the grace period to legislate to operationalize Articles 27(6) and 8 of the Constitution. Insinuations that Parliament should amend the Constitution to delete the article is in bad taste. The women of this country deserve better treatment from all arms of the government. End of statement. Basically, just to conclude, this is like a guillotine. And when I say it's a guillotine clause, those of you who know what a guillotine is, if you slice somebody's head with a guillotine or neck, it's really the end of the road. So, in these circumstances, perhaps the drafters of the Constitution may have wanted this to be a scarecrow clause and maybe never anticipated that it would be a clause that would come into action. But these are the lessons we learn. But as I said, Kenya is bigger. This is a grave situation. Our economy cannot support disruption beyond what we are going through. We must avert a situation where we are continuing to infuse a state of uncertainty into the country. These kind of scenarios do not portend well for economic recovery. They do not portend well for possible investors in our country. They do not portend well for resuscitation of the economy. And they also shake the very structures of security in our country. So as Kenyans, we need to reflect seriously on this issue and find an amicable way out. Thank you. Asante sana. Kwa kifupi, niko hapa na ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Tindi ambaye ni mjumbe wa Butere na pia ni whip wa chama cha ANC. Na tumejadiliana na mawakili wetu pia kuhusu swala ambalo Chief Justice aliamua jana kwamba amefika kiwango cha kumshawishi Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya ama kumshauri kwamba avunjilie bunge iliyoko sasa. Kile ambacho ningependa tu kuhimiza ni kwamba ingawa kuna matatizo, ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba msimamo wa CJ una uzito zaidi na unaweza leta matatizo mengi kwa taifa letu. Kwanza, hali ya uchumi sio nzuri katika taifa letu. Kenya imepata pigo kubwa kutoka na mambo ya coronavirus. kama nchi zingine, lakini sisi tuna shida zetu. Hatuna uwezo kama taifa kwa wakati huu kwamba bunge hii ivunjilie mbali na Wakenya waingie kwa uchaguzi mara moja. Pesa zitatoka wapi? Nani atagharamia haya maneno yote? Na kwa wakati huu hata waziri wa fedha ameeleza kwa kinaganaga kwamba Kenya Revenue haiwezi kafika kwa zile targets ambazo aliziwekea. Ameanza kurevise targets kwa sababu uchumi hauwezi kukusanya hizo pesa. Matokeo katika ama mazalio ya kiuchumi sasa hayawezi fika pale. Kwa kifupi, uchumi wetu hauko bora. Na ndio kwa sababu kwa ANC tumesema lengo la kwanza ni kuhakikisha kwamba kuna uchumi bora. Kwa hivyo msimamo wetu ni kwamba suluhu haitapatikana kwa kuvunjilia bunge sasa. Na hakuna garantii kwamba ukivunja bunge sasa utakuwa umepata suluhu kuhusu vipengele vile ambavyo vinahusu mambo ya gender. Na hatujui kwamba ukienda kwa uchaguzi baada ya siku chache Wakenya watachagua vipi. Hawezi lazimisha Wakenya vile watavyopiga kura. Lakini tunajua kwamba kipengele kile ni cha muhimu sana kwetu Wakenya, na haswa mambo ya kijinsia. Kwa hivyo tunataka utulivu, tunataka zile institutions zinahusika wajadiliane vilivyo ili tupate suluhu bila kuleta kile wanaita instability katika taifa letu na kwa mambo ya kiuchumi. Kwa hivyo wazo letu ni kwamba uamuzi wa Chief Justice ulikuwa too drastic, na ni vizuri Wakenya wafikirie upya kwamba tutaelekea wapi. Mjadala huu ni mjadala ambao ni lazima tuuzungumzie kama Wakenya kwa njia inayofaa. Kenya ikiharibika, sisi wote tumepotea. Na tena tunajua kwamba bunge ndio inatoa makadirio ya zile pesa zitatumika. Sasa ikiwa tunavunja kwa njia ambayo haijulikani, alafu ni bunge gani itaweka rasilimali ama pesa za kuendesha program za Wakenya kutoka hapa? Na tena tujiulize, kuna maana gani kuvunjilia hili bunge na tumebaki sasa chini ya miaka miwili tuingie kwa uchaguzi? Tumebaki na miezi karibu 20 peke yake tuingie kwa uchaguzi wa 2022. Kwa hivyo kuna haja gani kuvunjilia sasa bunge iliyoko? Utaratibu ungekuwa bunge iliyoko imalize sheria fulani, alafu sisi wote tungojee kura za 20 ama uchaguzi wa 2022. Huo ndio msimamo wetu, na hilo ndio ombi letu kama ANC kwa Wakenya, kwamba tunataka taifa ambayo itakuwa na umoja na masikizano kwa mambo magumu kama haya. Asanteni sana. Okay, so where am I meeting?